Earlier today, I was afraid I was going to have to get up and tell you that Mises.org is available all over the world except in this room. But I think we've got it going now. And I'm about to undertake the riskiest thing that any speaker about websites could ever do, which is try to run a live website in front of you. If that had any sense at all, I'd be showing a PowerPoint program. For all I know, we'll get the blue screen of death or something like that. Oh, now you get to see my extremely geeky Alienware computer here. All right. There we go. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Mises.org. So this is the current incarnation of Mises.org. This is what Mises.org, 11.0 or 110.0. I don't know what you want to name it, but the darn thing changes just constantly. It's the only way we know how to do any work. Relentless change. In 1995. Well, let me just back up a little bit. It's very implausible that I should be the advocate of all this stuff, because actually I was very early on very much of a debunker of the World Wide Web. And I made an elementary error back in those days. I confused the unchangingness of principles with the unchangingness of technology. I thought, well, you should be attached to old principles and not change them. There's certain things that are permanent in life, and somehow I thought that WordStar 5.0 was one of those things. So I don't know if any of you learned WordStar when it was out, but learning WordStar is something like learning to play the French horn. It's something it takes years, and once you do it very well, and nobody wants to back away from things once you learn them that well. So I was attached to the unchangingness of technology in those days. But fortunately, actually it was WordStar 3.0, not 5.0, so it's even more primitive. In those days, Peter Klein had been hanging around our offices. He was, I guess he wasn't on the job market yet, or he was about to become so. And the first web browser was invented. Became available for users of Bill Gates' operating system. And he put up the first Mises.org site, which you can still look at to this day. If you go to the Internet Archive, you can look at our first website. And it was very much like all the websites in those days, just a billboard. Here, we exist, and here's our address in the real world. And that was it. And I remember thinking at the time, I thought, well, if you get a chance to promote Mises.org, why not? But what good is this crazy electronic contraption? I mean, nobody can even see it, so whatever. But actually, there's a funny story even behind that. I remember when email first came out, my friend Tom Bethel called me up and said, Jeffrey, are you familiar with this thing called email? And I said, well, I don't know. No, what is that? And he said, well, and he explained the way it works. And so I called up Lou Rockwell, and at the time we were in different places at the time, and we had been sending files back and forth using the old phone, hookup, the modem, You remember the sound? Yeah, the young people don't know. I did that for my daughter. She said, "What is that strange noise?" She had never heard that before. But so and we enjoyed using the modem, and I said, "Lou, there seems to be this thing called email. What do you think of it?" He said, "Well, how does it work?" I said, "Well, it seems as if I would, for example, send you a message, but you don't have to be online at that time to get it. You would, at your sort of leisure, wait, and at some point you would dial up yourself, and then you would be able to pull down that message that I sent, and then you could do the same thing for me." And so there's a long pause, and he said, "Well, where does it go in the meantime?" And I thought about it, I thought, I don't actually know. And he said, "Well, it doesn't sound like anything we really need, does it?" I said, "No, not really." So, all these years later, we still don't know where email goes in between. Nonetheless, we did kind of get up to speed, and the first website opened up in 1995, and we were one of the earliest sites of any nonprofit to use it. And as I say, I was a debunker. I remember Judy Thomason going around the office. She used to take these computer magazines, and she would read them. And she came into me one day. She said, Jeff, the World Wide Web really is the future. It's just in its infancy. And I remember thinking, I can't believe she's falling for all this nonsense. It's ridiculous. The whole thing's going to collapse. But anyway, somehow I got dragged into this world, and I'll tell you why. We began to put some files up there. And I think one of the very first things that went online was the Austrian Study Guide, which we had been building since about 1982. And it's just a list of bibliographic reference for Austrian works on a variety of topics. And I was sitting in my chair, and the Austrian Study Guide was about 5 feet across the room in my bookshelf. But that would require I sort of have to get out of my chair and go over there and pick it up and bring it back to my desk and read it. And then I realized, well, it's online, so I'll just look at it that way. And I did. It took a couple of seconds, and I didn't have to get out of my chair and go across the room. And I got the same information. And I had something like a eureka moment. I thought, students are some of the laziest people in the world. If we can give them what they need on their desktops, then they will take that and use it. And if they can finish their research projects using our material, rather than having to go through the library and dig through dusty old books, they would do it. And so everything began. A crazed frenzy to get everything online that started back in those days, and it hasn't stopped, and it goes on every day. A remarkable frenzy to get everything conceivable online, everything possibly we can online. And we have a store that sells a fantastic amount of books, and we have conferences and all the rest of it. But if there's any way that we can get the same thing to everybody who wants it for free, we will do that. And we've done this with every kind of thing you can think of, and we're still looking for a way to get these Mises-Sorg power bands deliverable online for free. But we haven't achieved that yet. But I wish everybody had one. We'll do the same thing with T-shirts if that ever comes to time. But in the meantime, we can do it with all text files, audio files, media files, and everything else. So let me just kind of go through a little bit about what we have. Well, let me talk first about traffic. This is the data that I can never remember when you ask me between sessions. How much kind of traffic does Mises-Sorg get? Well, I can't remember. It's always changing. So I'm going to read off all these things to you so you can get a good sense of where we are. Daily visitors. Last we counted was 16,159 daily visitors to the site. Daily articles emailed out. This, like for example, this article. You can subscribe very easily and get this article delivered to your inbox every day. And we have 21,341 subscribers to that. We have monthly visitors, 469,953. Monthly page views of 966,000, close to 1 million. Percent of visitors who are new, 60%. Very interesting. Bandwidth downloaded per day. We're being looted, every day. 60 gigs of bandwidth downloaded per day. We have to throttle that to some extent. But back when we were being hosted with what's that company that used to host YouTube? They have unthrottled bandwidth. We were getting hit with so many overages. It was just we had to stop it. So we moved. Now we get more gigs downloaded per day, but it's throttled at some point. Number of audio files on the site: 1,142. This is to make it possible. Lots of people are very much attached to audio. I've run into many people at this conference who have come up to me and say, well, this has changed my commuting life. I listen to Mises-Sorg lectures every day. Number of video files, 236 video files online. So, insofar as we have the time and the chance, we take anything we video and put it online. You'll notice that we don't always use YouTube. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. This mainly has to do with the length of the program. Most of our video files are longer than an hour, so they don't work well on YouTube. But we have some things up there. But in the media section, you can easily pull up, any kind of any of these video files can be seen using the Windows media player that we have online. That should pull up automatically. Number of books that we have online, 398. And we're making progress every day. Number of journal articles, 2,039. Now this is a very interesting case because we have the complete run of the Journal of Libertarian Studies and the Quarterly Journal of Austrian Economics, Free Market, Mises Review, the old Review of Austrian Economics, and the Austrian Economics Newsletter, Libertarian Forum. I wish Murray could see this. Left and right, imagine that. Also, all of our working papers and essays in political economy. Reason papers, we didn't publish it, we don't publish it, but they needed a host, so we volunteered. Now, it's an interesting case because regular academic journals are sort of penurious with who gets to view their content or not. This is the difference between Mises.org and regular outfits. You know, I mean, in our view, if somebody wants to read an article from the Quarterly Journal of Austrian Economics, they shouldn't have to be a currently matriculating student in a university that subscribes to some journal service for, you know, $80,000 a year. It's absurd. We put everything online for free. So everybody can get to it. And like I say, if our research... so if students can get what they need from our material, they'll use us first. And it's been a wonderful source of citations. This is why the Quarterly Journal is so well cited in the literature. Okay, moving on. Number of daily articles. We were just looking at those. Let's go back. Number of daily articles. 2,577. And what's fun about this is like a neat little thing. You notice this little orange thing here, RSS feeds. You know, not everybody, actually young people don't go to websites anymore. They just read everything through their readers. And you know, or through their iPhones or Blackberries or whatever, and so you have to have a feed that makes this possible. And we used to have 4 feeds, and then we had 5 feeds, and then 16 feeds, and then 60 feeds. Now we've got a feed for every single author on the entire website. And finally, I asked David Wexler, who's the real magician behind all this stuff. He's the webmaster and codemaster behind everything. I said, "How many feeds do we have?" And he said, "Yes, the answer is infinite." Because they're dynamically created. So there you go, infinite. That's how many feeds we have. So you saw how I just clicked on the author and all of Henry Hazlitt's articles that we currently have up in the daily article section of the site immediately displayed. But of course we also have all of Hazlitt's books available on PDF download too. Okay, let me go back to where we were. Additional HTML documents, 1,393. These are just documents that, you know, we see a great article somewhere, we think this ought to be available in the world, we put it up, and there it is. The total size of the Mises.org site is 47.8 gigs. That's how big the site is. And it's a lot to pack up and move. And we've moved several times to various servers to try to get the best price. The total size of the Mises.org database is 11 gigs. Total size of Mises.org backup 105 gigs. And speaking of statistics, I'm particularly struck by this one, Wikipedia, which students just love. You know, despite professors railing about it, don't use Wikipedia. Well, we have 591 links out from Wikipedia to Mises.org. Okay. So you want to talk about, you know, how do we compare to other people? Let me just try something here. All right. Let's see how we do. All right, this is compete.com. Now, all these site ranking, what am I doing on time here? Okay. All these site ranking things, none of them are accurate, of course, and the first thing everybody will tell you about Alexa or Compete or any of these things is, well, that's not true. You know, what this says is not really accurate. Well, it's true that it's not. The only thing that's really accurate is things like Google Analytics, and that generated the data I gave you earlier. Nonetheless, since they use the same standard to evaluate every website, you get some sense of how you can compare with other people. And Compete.com gets this data from ISPs, I believe. So you get a reasonable look at what's going on. So let's just type in Mises.org here. Okay. Can you see that? Yeah. Oh, that looks nice up there. Yeah. So you can see that, I had several people come up to me and say, you know, I can't stand the redesign, it's just dreadful. Well, okay, we redesigned it in June, and look at what's happened to our traffic in the meantime. So what we did in the redesign was try to figure out, we did a long analysis of precisely how people use the site and tried to maximize in placing things on the page and whatnot, and how people use the site to help people use it better. And it's actually benefited us. Let's just play this little wicked game that they have here. and compare it to others. So why don't we first try our favorite institution, the Federal Reserve? Huh? And what about the center of the warfare state? That's American Economic American Enterprise Institute, right? What about the ruling class? That's the Council of Foreign Relations. Yes, they're still around. They're still running our lives. Okay, what about the lovely institution that Keynes created, the IMF, the World Central Planner? So you can just kind of see what happens here. It's an interesting thing to. So if web traffic were a good measure of influence, which I don't know, it's hard to say, but nonetheless we're doing very, very well. In fact, I know of no nonprofit in the world that you're welcome to refute this later. You can go to compete.com and compare with all your. I know what every one of you is thinking. You're thinking, well, what about how do you compare to so and so or this or that? Right? You can check it out on your own. I think you'll be very impressed. I'll just show you a little trick that we've now learned. This is our new system for allowing customized. You see that the page now looks differently than it did before. I now have my daily articles on the right side and the Mises blog posts all listed underneath that. And then I'm always attached to these new books. Oh, look, we've got Satan's Garrett books available now in the bookstore. I'd love to talk to you about that, except I've driven you all crazy with the subject between sessions, so I'll avoid it. New media, bestsellers. These are the bestsellers in the store. Did I mention that we have 319 products in the store now, most of them all unique to Mises org. What you have here underneath that is forum posts. These are all content created by outside users who are contributing so much. And let me just say, incidentally, that I've met some of you at this conference this week. 5 minutes. And you've come up to me and said, well, I'm the guy who wrote you and said, I really wish you would get such and such book online. And you were so nice, and we went back and forth about it, and we went up there. So much of what Mises org does is helped along by your suggestions and your ideas, which we field, every single day. The whole thing is, and there's many ways in which we don't actually do anything on Mises org. We respond to the needs of others. And this goes back to, by the way, this is our markets and data. If you ever want to be depressed about the state of the world, then have a look at this.
Okay. Now that I only have a few minutes left, I was really hoping to get some questions. I know you all have lots of questions about this stuff. Questions such as, where does email go between the time it's delivered and back? But let me just mention what we think of as being our ideals on Mises org, our principles. The first is an attachment to Misesian principles. That's more important than anything else, that we say the right thing. Our goal isn't to maximize traffic. That's not the purpose. There are other ways to do that besides talking about the Austrian theory of the business cycle. But we want to stay on topic. We want to talk about economics, and we want to talk about Misesian economics and do it in a way that's compelling and draws people to those ideals. So that's the most important thing. It's more important than anything else. More important than technology or anything. We always assume then that we have an infinite market. That's an underlying principle. We don't assume that everybody who's ever going to read Human Action has already read Human Action. No, we deliver it in every format you can possibly imagine. PDF, HTML. We have it available for every way you can imagine. We always assume that there's an infinite market, that there's more people that need to learn. The third principle that we use is generosity. We are not penurious with our material. We don't have a big obsession with our intellectual property rights, frankly. I get emails every day, we all get emails every day that say, well, I live in Brazil and I would like to translate such and such article into, so that people here can read it. Is it okay? We say yes. And somebody else says, well, here's a lovely book. Is it possible we could do a translation? Yes. Can I reprint this? Yes. Yeah. On and on. And my view is truly, and this is all, we all feel this way. If people wanted to post daily articles on windshields all over Manhattan, that's great. If you want to broadcast an audio file wherever you are, that's fabulous. The more attention we can get, the better. So generosity. That's just absolutely most important. We don't charge for any of the content on the site at all. And those things we do charge for, like books, we also provide for free. An interesting theory, and I don't have time to talk about that. Now, we also have to assume imperfection. We always know that the site is imperfect. Every day we arrive at work and we aspire to create improvements on the site. So if we get out of the day and there's been 5 or 6 improvements on the site that make it easier to use, make more content available, we've done a good job. It's always imperfect. The only perfect software was created in something like 1982, and it's got no bugs, but you wouldn't want to use it. So it's, in many ways, websites are like the market. They're always developing and they're always imperfect. And all you can do, how do you go about creating a Mises-org? Well, you need to get a group of fanatics together that work relentlessly hard every single day for about 12 years, and you'll have Mises-org. That's how you do it. There's no such thing as just spending one of these things out in a day or two. No, it's a constant, relentless. And by the way, if you have any suggestions on the site, we take all these very, very seriously. So we always try to fix them. We're always open to the outside world. And I'm going to just click on this. I'm sorry that I didn't get a chance to talk about this. This is our network. This is our new. This is just fabulous. This is mostly our user-created content on the site, and you can create your own blog and blog every day. We've got a forum that is getting something like 100 new members every single day, and the posts are fantastic and very high-quality stuff. We've got a live chat, also known as Mises-org's Second Life. I dare you to go in there. There'll be some fascinating discussion that you can get involved with for hours and hours, and so you see your life waste away. And these are all the bloggers you can see here. These are all people who have started their own blogs on Mises-org. So this network is a very exciting way that we can draw in all the people that Mises-org has educated around the world into creating content for us. And I'm afraid I'm out of time. There's so much I wanted to say. But between sessions, please come up to me and we can talk about it. If you have any additional questions, I'd love to be able to help. Thank you very much.